Many years ago, in a small wooden house deep in an African forest, there lived a boy named Paul with his mother and father. They were very poor. Paul's father worked as a woodcutter while his mother sewed clothes for wealthy people in the city. During the summer months, the forest was alive with birdsong. Paul's father taught him to recognize each species by their calls, and the boy learned to identify them all. Those were happy days, filled with music and sunshine. When winter arrived, everything changed. The days grew short and bitterly cold. Snow covered the ground, and the forest fell silent as the birds migrated to warmer lands. That winter, Paul became ill. His mother prepared chicken soup and hot tea, but nothing helped. He only grew weaker. A doctor traveled from the city to examine him. After speaking with Paul and checking him carefully, the doctor turned to the worried parents with grave news. He explained that many children across the country were falling sick that winter, and no one understood why. He had no cure to offer. All he could suggest was plenty of rest and nutritious food. As the days passed, Paul's condition worsened. He stayed in bed, losing interest in his toys and everything around him. His father brought him small treasures from the forest, hoping to lift his spirits, but the boy remained indifferent. His face grew pale, and he refused to eat. Some nights, fever gripped him, and he dreamed of soaring above the treetops, looking down at his tiny house far below. One morning, after a particularly difficult night, Paul woke to find his father sitting beside him. His father asked gently if there was anything he needed. Paul thought for a moment, then answered weakly that he missed the songs of the birds. He asked if his father could catch one and keep it in a cage above his bed so he could listen to it singing and remember the forest. His father smiled and promised to bring him a bird the very next day. But his heart was heavy because he knew that all the birds had flown away for the winter. This was the one thing his dying son wanted, and he couldn't provide it. That evening, Paul's mother suggested making a wooden bird from the scraps they usually burned for warmth. It was a freezing, snowy day, and cutting trees in the harsh weather was exhausting work. Yet, throughout the day, Paul's father thought constantly about how to carve a bird that might bring his son some comfort. He knew it would never sing, but perhaps if it was beautiful enough, it might bring a glimmer of joy. After dinner, he began his work. His first attempts failed miserably. The birds he carved were too heavy and clumsy. One by one, he threw them into the fire, feeling increasingly hopeless. Midnight came, and snow continued to fall outside. Then inspiration struck. He realized the bird needed to be light and delicate, made from just 2 thin pieces of wood with real feathers attached. He took a slender piece of wood and began carving it into the shape of a bird's body and tail, cutting intricate feather patterns with painstaking care. Many times the delicate wood broke, and he had to start over. But he persisted through the night, and by dawn he had finished. He showed it to his wife. She smiled and said it was beautiful but not quite complete. Taking a needle and thread, she carefully stitched the tail and wing feathers together, just as they would be on a living bird. Then she tied a long thread to the bird's back so it could hang above Paul's bed. Together they looked at their creation, and the woodcutter quietly carried it to his son's room. But Paul was sleeping. Very gently, he hung the bird above the bed, stepped back, and gazed at it turning slowly in the air. The next morning, when the father returned to check on Paul, he found the boy awake, staring intently at the wooden bird spinning above him. For the first time in weeks, there was a spark of life in his eyes. Paul thanked his father and said it was beautiful, though he'd never seen such a bird in the forest. He asked what it was called. His father promised to find out. The following morning, Paul was sitting up in bed, reaching toward the bird. The woodcutter's heart leaped with hope. That night, he secretly shortened the thread slightly, raising the bird just a bit higher. 2 days later, Paul was kneeling on the bed, his hand nearly touching it. He asked again about the bird's name, and his father said he would tell him soon. Again that night, the father raised the bird a little more. 6 days after receiving the wooden bird, Paul was standing on his bed, straining to reach it. He called to his father for help, wanting to make it spin. His father encouraged him to keep trying, saying it wasn't as high as it seemed. 8 days later, while working in the forest, the woodcutter heard an unusual sound coming from the house. He rushed inside to find Paul jumping up and down on his bed, laughing with pure joy. The bird was spinning wildly above him. Paul had finally touched it. He shouted happily, asking at last for the bird's name. His father looked at his son's bright eyes, his rosy cheeks, his energy returned. Standing in the doorway, Paul's mother smiled through tears of relief and gratitude. The woodcutter spoke softly, his voice filled with emotion. He told Paul that the bird was called the bird of happiness. And in that moment, they all understood that happiness had found its way back into their home, not through magic or medicine, but through love, hope, and the simple act of reaching for something beautiful just beyond our grasp.